apple does not fall too far from the tree. So is apple cider vinegar with mother.
Hi guys, welcome back to another one, and if you're a returning subscriber, you are my sugar, spice and everything nice. So what's on the menu today is apple cider vinegar, and how we make apple cider vinegar is through a two-step process where we convert the apple juices into alcohol and then from alcohol into vinegar, and that's the same process we've used to ferment our cider vinegar. Mine fermented in 21 days, and if you're patient enough you can ferment these for up to 3 months, but I have just a trick for you to make the period shorter because your girl here is impatient. I could not wait 3 months to make apple cider vinegar, so I came up with a shorter process that I'm going to be sharing here. And I made two things from this cider vinegar. I made apple cider vinegar and I made Ciderkin. This is what you make after the apples are done fermenting. You don't throw them away. Some people convert them into compost and give them to their animals, but you can still make this interesting drink that is called Ciderkin. And Ciderkin is a weaker version of apple cider vinegar where you add water to the apple pits and boil them on water, add some sugar, flavor it. You can add some cinnamon. I put some ginger into mine, and this you ferment it overnight for 1 night. And it's a very good drink for kids, especially with colds. You can have this, it's some form of alcohol. I can say it's some sort of wine. And apple cider vinegar has so many benefits for our bodies, especially when you take it in the morning, fasting before a meal. Just add a tablespoon into a glass of water and take it before breakfast, before your lunch, before any meals. It aids in digestion. I also use it for my hair. It balances the pH in your hair. I do it as an after rinse. It has so many benefits. I said I'm going to give you a trick to ferment this faster. So what I did here was just using a starter. If you guys have made yogurt or you know the process of making yogurt, and I'm going to be doing that video soon, so watch out for that. You ferment yogurt through a starter by using a starter first. So that is what I did here. If you have apple cider vinegar itself, the store-bought one, or you have the homemade one, like for the next batch, I'm just going to save some of this to ferment the next batch.
Let's start from scratch. So here I cleaned my 4 pieces of apples and I'm just cutting them into small pieces together with the skin. And here we'll be adding the apple cider vinegar starter to the jar. You can purchase apple cider vinegar from any supermarket, preferably the one with the mother. It's the unpasteurized one. The mother of vinegar is a blob-like or residue substance that is normally found in the bottom of the bottle. This is what helps to kickstart the fermentation process and also helps to prevent bacteria from growing into our apples once we start the fermentation process. So we're going to add our apples in the jar. And then next our apple cider vinegar starter with mother. I used a 1/4 cup. And next we're adding 3 tablespoons of sugar. The naturally occurring yeast converts the sugars in the juice into alcohol, and this is the fermentation we're talking about here. And it's the same process used to make wine or beer. So the yeast feeds on the sugar that we just added into our apple cider vinegar batch. So here I'm just stirring everything up, and I added about 1.5 liters of water. My jar is 2 liters. And we're just going to cover this with a cloth, a breathable cloth, and secure it with a rubber band. This allows air to circulate while keeping any dirt or germs and insects out. Place the jar in a warm spot. I placed mine on my kitchen counter. From the 2nd to the 7th day, push the top pieces down once a day to let the bottom ones come up to prevent oxidation. This prevents bad mold from growing on the apples that would spoil our whole batch. Repeat this process of stirring our apples every single day for 7 days or a week, and by then you'll start to see bubbles forming. And bubbles are a sign of healthy fermentation. This means that the process is going on well. This was the 3rd day, and as you can see, the insects or the fruit flies are already starting to be attracted to our vinegar. At this point, it has bubbles and it has an alcohol smell, though not that strong. So what I'm doing here, I'm just stirring the apples, and I'm just pushing the top ones below and bringing the ones below at the top to prevent oxidation again. At this point, you can stir the apple cider vinegar every other day, since the bubbles have already started to form. So you don't have to stir it every day. And the starter that we added to kickstart the process also helps to prevent our apple cider vinegar from going bad. It helps with the bacteria. It keeps away the mold. This was 1 week later, and by this point, our apple cider vinegar already has a very strong alcohol smell. I do not stir it at this point. And what is forming at the top is what we call the mother of the vinegar. So I won't stir it here, I just cover it with my cloth and leave it to ferment further until the alcohol turns into vinegar. This was 2 weeks later, and as you can see, the fruit flies are already packed at the top of our cloth. And at this point, it has a very strong smell that mixed with alcohol and vinegar. And as you can see, it has a blob-like surface. And that's the mother of the vinegar. But the bubbles at this point are starting to die down. So it means it's almost turning into a vinegar. And the apples have changed color, and they've already started to drop at this point. And here I'm just checking our vinegar, but I'm not going to stir it. I'm just going to cover it with our cloth and put it back away undisturbed until I get a strong vinegar smell. At this point, there's a vinegar smell, but it's not as strong. So this was day 17, and as you can see, our apples are already starting to drop to the bottom. Before they were floating, but right now they're dropping to the bottom, meaning that the yeast has already converted from our apples. And at this point, the vinegar smell is quite strong, and it still has a thick layer or blob-like substance at the top, which is the mother of the vinegar. it gets thicker by day. And here I'm just going to cover it and leave it until the 21st day when it's ready, to make sure that it has formed into a strong vinegar. So this was the 21st day or the 3rd week, and our vinegar is ready at this point. It has a very strong vinegar scent or smell. And here I'm just going to drain it using a fine sieve or a fine cloth, and I'm going to squeeze the excess vinegar from the apples using a spoon. And at this point, we don't throw away these apple pieces. We're going to make Ciderkin with them. So here I'm just going to transfer the apples into a cooking pot and start the process of making our Ciderkin. And to make our Ciderkin, I added a total of 1 liter of water into the apples, and then I spiced them with some ginger and some cinnamon. You can add some honey or sugar at this point to sweeten your drink, and we're going to boil it for about 10 minutes. And here our apple cider vinegar is ready. Let's test it. So here I'm using baking soda or bicarbonate of soda, and I'm going to pour in the vinegar to see if there's a reaction. And the reaction produces carbon dioxide, which is evident from the bubbles formed from the reaction. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment on our video. As you can see, the bubbles have formed, so this means that our vinegar is ready. So here I'm starting the process of making our Ciderkin, and I'm just placing the pot on the fire and boiling it for 10 minutes, like I said earlier. And here I'm just going to bottle my apple cider vinegar in a glass bottle and set it aside. You can also put it in the fridge for up to 3 to 6 months. And at this point, it's ready to be used. And so from the whole fermentation process, I managed to get a liter of apple cider vinegar. At this point, our Ciderkin is going on well. This was about 5 minutes after boiling, and I'm just stirring it around. And at this point, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ginger. I'm going to grate it and add it into the mixture. I'll also be adding 4 cinnamon sticks and a handful of cloves, and at this point you can flavor it with any other flavors of your choice. And all these properties in all these ingredients are good for combating colds, so it makes it a very healthy drink. At this point, our drink is ready, and I'm just going to be transferring the apples into a blender to further blend them. This is to ensure that I get all the goodness from the apples. And if you don't have a blender, you don't need to sweat it. You can still smash them with a fork, just like this. It'll work just the same. At this point, our apples are very soft, and we'll just be transferring this mixture into a jar and covering it with water and leaving it to ferment for a further 12 hours or overnight. And I used a total of 1.5 liters to make this Ciderkin. So here I'll just be mixing everything up, blending it and transferring it into the jar. And I'll cover the jar or secure it with a lid until the next day when the Ciderkin is ready to be drained. So this was about 24 hours later after fermenting our ciderkin. And here I'm just draining it. I'm sieving it to get a fine drink. And from this, I still managed to get some leftover apple pieces. And this you can use to make applesauce. Our ciderkin is ready, and it had a mild apple cider vinegar taste. And it was quite nice mixed with the ginger and the cinnamon. It was lovely. So this was the next morning, and I'm just having my tablespoon of apple cider vinegar mixed with my water. This was before my breakfast. I have it before meals. Apple cider vinegar has so many uses, especially at home. I also use it as a food scrub. I mix it with a tablespoon of table salt. And you can also use it for your hair. Here I use it as a last rinse on my hair, and I'm just mixing it up to spray it on my hair after washing it. You can also use it to clean surfaces at home. It also makes your pots shiny. If you have dull looking pots, just use apple cider vinegar mixed with baking soda and scrub your pots with it. It leaves them shiny. It has so many uses across the home. So guys, that's it for today's video. Let me know if you try this. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you on my next one.